So today I'm going to attempt to fit my Oxford heated grips to the Interceptor. It's getting a bit chilly now. The grips I bought were recommended as the premium adventure heated grips because they are a very similar size to the grip that's already on there. So if I take that one and put it up against that one, you can see they're very similar. There might be a very slight trim that needs to happen, but yeah, they're the ones that apparently are recommended. I plan to fit it to a auxiliary plug, which I believe is available in the headlamp. Now it's a plug and play. It goes back to a fuse system, 10 amp I believe. So what I bought was a little ready-made loom that comes with it. So that end there will go into the plug that's already under the headlamp, and then that gives you two sockets that you can either plug heated grips, which I plan to do, or even a USB charger, for example. So as I was saying before my battery ran out, this little loom is pre-made, gives you two plugs for plugging accessories into, and it runs hopefully straight off the plug that's behind the headlamp, and we'll see how that goes. So the only other little problem I can see is the bracket. Now the bracket is I believe designed to go on to that wing mirror clamp, but it's very long, so there's going to have to be a bit of fettling done here to get that to fit. I want it on the clutch side. I don't want it on the accelerator side. So there may be a little bit of cutting, drilling and bending, so you'll have to see what it looks like when I'm finished. Right, so before I go trying to cut these grips off or make any messing around, I'm just going to take a couple of these little screws out. I believe there's one each side. Take the headlamp cover off and just make sure that the plug that I'm talking about is actually in situ. I don't have a tripod, so it's very difficult to do this holding on, so I am going to need two hands. Well, headlight is off, and the good news is that there is the accessory plug, and I say that will give you a 10 amp feed back to the ignition live, which means whenever you turn your ignition off, whatever's connected to that turns off, so you won't be able to drain your battery. So basically this little splitter wiring loom that I bought plugs straight onto the top of that, into there like so, and then that gives you two takeoffs. And I say the kit comes with everything you need. It gives you the two other end of the plug caps, and it gives you all the little pins. I think there's one spare pin in there, so yeah, if you do make a botch with one, hopefully it'll be another one. I just got to make sure I get the polarity correct when I'm putting it in from the back end of the pins, or so the plug, to make sure I get it right. But yeah, so far so good. Just need to see if the handlebar ends will crack. Now these are supposed to be pretty difficult, and some people are recommending putting some heat on the end of this, which allows the heat to travel down the bolt and soften up whatever it is I put on the end of those. But I have to admit, I've already cracked these prior to filming, so yeah, mine are loose, so I can undo them, take off the bar ends, and then the next step is to cut off the grips. So just to double check, these two plugs are working. I've just put a tester on them. Again, sorry, I need two hands, so I couldn't film it. On pre-ignition there, these are not live. They only become live when it's started and it's putting in 14 volts to that particular power takeoff. More than enough. So it just proves that it is linked straight through to the ignition system. These grips are originally designed to go on and then feed a cable all the way back to the battery. So it's got quite a long feeder on it. I'm not going to need any of that. I'm just going to chop most of that. I won't be cutting it until I dry fit the whole system. The grips are marked left and right, but if by any chance you lose that, if you look at the barrels, one is thinner than the other. The wider barrel, this particular one here, is your throttle cable. Sorry, is your throttle grip. The narrow one goes on the left-hand handlebar. As you'll see as I get further into this, that needs to be wider because it's got the throttle housing on top of the handlebar. So again, before I commit to cutting the grips off, because for me, once you cut those off, it's no turning back, I'm just going to see if I can dry fit this little bracket. That is basically how the bracket's going to go on, and then the controller bolts onto the face of the bracket. Right, so on the back of the controller there are 4 little stainless steel screws that go into those tiny little holes to hold the controller unit on the front. Well, don't do what I've done. I've bent the bracket at such an angle that I'm not able to get to that screw hole. So I'm going to bend it back a fraction, put the screws in, and then bend it back to the angle that I want. But just keep that in mind if you're coming to do that. So I've now super glued that outer conduit to that stem. That can't slip down now, and hopefully stop any water ingress down inside the wiring. I've also put the control unit on the back of the head, sorry, on the back of the bracket, bend it to the angle that I think I'm going to need, and I'll just put that on the bike, dry fit it to the bike and see what it looks like. Right, well that's it all. Personally, I don't think it's too bad. You know, everybody has their own way of doing things. The grip and the reach isn't too bad, so I can get to the controls. And that's quite steady, no messing around, no cutting, no drilling. Just simply put it straight onto the clutch lever bracket, and that's not going anywhere. That's pretty firm. So we'll leave that there, and I think I'm going to do the bit that I'm dreading now, which is cutting off the existing grips. Now that is done. Again, I'm not going to be able to show it because I need 2 hands for this. It is done with a very, very sharp knife, and I've just put a new blade in this. And basically what you do is you start from there and you cut all the way down, all the way back there, and then you peel it off, and it should all come off in one. And I'll show you the difference on the accelerator one, which is why the barrels on the heated grips are different widths. Right, let's do it. So take a very sharp knife, a single cut all the way down, and then that will allow the whole grip, hopefully, if I've done enough cutting, which I clearly haven't. There we go. Grip comes off all in one. Job done. Let's do the other side. Okay, same again. I'm not sure if this is focusing or not. Put the blade in there, 1 cut all the way down, and then hopefully the grip will come off in one. And now you can see the difference. That is just a smooth bar. That has got the rolling barrel for the throttle. So that is why one is thicker than the other. So the left hand heated grip is a slip fit. I try and do this with one hand, so you'll have to bear with me. Try to do the best I can. That's just a slip fit up into there where it sits against the control head, or the switch gear. Now this part, be sure, do not leave it like that, because it's going to interfere with the clutch. So you have to tilt it down so you get the angle. It's still interfering a little bit more. That's now totally clear. So be aware of that one. Just make sure you twist it, and it goes on quite nicely, and it is about the right length too. So I'll yeah, that's not bad. That's on there. I'll put a bar end on and make sure I don't have to trim the grip. Yeah, so that's the bar end on. That doesn't look too bad. Now what I have noticed is that this is quite a pinch, putting the bar end on. And I think when I come to do the throttle side, I may need to trim it slightly, because once the bar end goes on, I don't want it pinching and making the throttle movement stiffen anyway. I don't want it grasping up anywhere. The other thing you have to do is all these little knobblies, you've got to take them all off. And also on the end of the bar, little knobblies there, you got to take them off as well. Leave these ones on, because that is where the end of the grip will come up, and it saves it pinching against that. So that is where I think I'm going to have to do a bit of trimming on the other grip, but it shouldn't be a problem. We'll see. So on the throttle side, with the acceleration barrel, if that's what it's called, that will not go over that. It will not go over it. So these end flanges take off with a knife, and all these knobbly bits up to the backrest take off with a sharp knife. Now I don't really want to cut my fingers off, but I understand the easiest way of doing this is to take a Stanley with a very sharp blade. Sorry, I'm not looking through the camera, I'm looking this, and then just do that and take the knobbly off, like so. And you need to do that on the whole barrel. Take them all off, and then that will allow the grip to slide on. So as I say, very carefully, let's just see if I can get that to focus, very carefully with a sharp knife, take off all the knobblies, and the grip will then be able to slide over the top of the accelerator barrel. Right, well the grip did slide just over it. It needed a little bit of encouragement, so it's quite a tight fit, and as I suspected, I'm going to have to trim here to be able to get the end cap back on, but that's not a problem. But they are on. Again, making sure that none of this interferes with the front brake, and it doesn't. Even if the throttle was on, the front brake doesn't touch it. And I've tried to get the Oxford logos pretty much the same. So now it's time to glue them on. And in their wisdom, Oxford supply a load of little stickies, cable ties, and also I believe this is slow drying super glue, which allows you to put it on, get the grip on, put it into position, and then leave it to dry. Right, well that's the next thing. Right, so the next thing is to apply super glue. This comes with the heated grips. I'm not sure if I said before, I think this is a slow drying super glue, which allows you to get it on here and get it down the inside of the grip, and it will allow you to slide them into position and settle their final position before it actually starts drying. I'm not sure what the drying time is, but yeah, I think I'll get those done. So that one's that's now complete. That's been super glued, and I'll do the same on this one. Didn't go on too bad, to be fair. Once you've cut all them little knobblies off, it just slides over the acceleration barrel. And this one here, same thing. I don't think I need to trim it. I do need to trim the other side though. Bit of super glue on the bar, slide the grip on. What I've found is that down the grip there's a seam where it's been cast or molded, and if I keep that seam at the top of the bar, just about there, then that's where I need to be, so it doesn't interfere with the clutch. So we'll get that one on. Well, that's both the grips glued. Just now I need to let them dry. And as I said, this one in here definitely needs trimming. So that'll be my next job, is just making sure I trim it, not too much, but enough. So it's a reasonable fit when the bar end goes on. I may at some point put bar end mirrors on this, I don't know, we'll see. Right, let's see if I can trim this reasonably level. Right, well that's the trimming done. I'm afraid it's a little bit of a butcher job. And that is how much I had to take off it. So quite a bit to get the bar end back on. But I mean, I don't know if it was a mistake, but I super glued it on before I trimmed it. Maybe I should have trimmed it before I super glued it, I don't know, but it's on now. And it's running free nicely on the spring, so it's not binding anywhere. So yeah, right, that's the physical side. Now I just need to start tracking the electrics down to the headlight. That should be fun. Right, so I've made sure that that's nice and free, and it is. And I can put a little bit more through if I don't think so. I've tracked this one all the way down through the bike, and then it goes through. I don't know if you can see because of the sun, there's two little holes in the back of the headlight with grommets. I then fed them through. This is the main power cord. Here, that's the throttle heated grip. That's the clutch side heated grip. And all I need to do now is to snip that plug off and put on the pins and plug that will go into that little loom. Right, so after much fiddling, I have cut the plug off the power end that goes to the controller, and I have put two little pins there. Don't know if that's going to focus or not. Two little pins on there, which then have to be pushed into this plug, and this plug will then connect to that plug. That should be the system powered. And then I just need to tidy up the wiring and see if I can get this headlight back in there with that bird's nest. I think that's probably going to be the most frustrating bit. Right, let's see if we can make sure we get the polarity around the right way on this. Right, well I have to be honest and say that getting that little plug in and trying to get the little pins in the back was a pain in the proverbial. But anyway, it's wired in now to the auxiliary plug to the bike. The grips are now wired up there. It's pretty straightforward. So we'll see if things work. That's doing a self-test. Now it is wired up through the ignition, so we'll see what happens. If it goes bang, it goes bang. Well, I don't see any smoke. So let's test the controller, shall we? On. Yeah, we have green. Brilliant. 40, 50, 75, 100%. Definitely getting some heat in the left hand. And I'm definitely getting some heat in the right hand. Wow, okay. They're on. Yeah, heat's building now, alright. So they're on. They're working. They're wired into the loom. I'll turn them off. And now I just got to try and get this bird's nest back into the headlight. Right, it's going to be fun. It's all in. I've left it running for about 5 minutes. I'm on 75% and they are very, very warm, very hot. Yeah, I would expect when you've got your hand covering those and there's no wind chill factor, they're going to get quite warm. Right, well, there you have it. How to, or in some cases, how not to fit heated Oxford grips. Alright, good luck if you're going to do some. Bye.